Don't teach your children about your great warriors, Maharana Pratap, the only Rajput who actually stood against the Mughals and held his ground against Akbar. Shivaji Maharaj, an extraordinary man with extraordinary courage. You, know, you can compare it to Napoleon, my Francis Napoleon, but he had even more vision and spirituality. With a few hundred men, with only his guts, stood against the most powerful army in the world at that time, that of Aurangzeb, and actually defeated Aurangzeb, you can say, because when Shivaji was born, Aurangzeb was at the top of his power, and when Shivaji died at such a young age, the empire of Aurangzeb started to crumble and never recovered. The Mughal power was on the downfall. I mean, the great women of India, Chennamma, Rani of Jhansi, Ahilyabai of Indore, your great poets and writers, Kalidasa, who's been compared with Shakespeare or Homer, with Sanskrit even translated into English, has so much rhythm and beauty and profoundness. The great philosophers like Sri Aurobindo, probably one of the best philosophers, one of the greatest philosophers in the world, apart from being a yogi and a poet, is not taught neither Indian universities nor into Western universities, and yet he's on par with any great philosopher. So you don't teach any Indianness to your children, and as a result, they're just good for export. The greatest brain drain in the world is that of India. Your best brains go abroad. It's still today the dream of every middle class and upper middle class parent in India to send their children to Harvard or Oxford or Canada. What a waste, What a lack of, pride. What a lack of nationalism, that my children, who've been brought up in India, they go abroad and they give their best abroad and they're lost to India. And as they have no Indianness, they're lost to the country where they are also. They become more American than the Americans, more British than the British, more Canadians than the Canadians. No Indianness is retained. They could be in the U.S. Be faithful to the U.S. that give them a lot of opportunities, and yet shine some Indianness, which will be beneficial to Americans. But they don't. Most of them don't, and it's very sad. So there has to be a change in Hindus. Yes, it is the last knowledge in the world. Yes, it needs to be preserved and protected, but there are challenges that the Hindus must face in the 21st century. Now, what are these challenges? The first one is to break the polytheist image that Hindus have. There is that image not only in Islam, not only Muslims have it, but also Christians have it. That the Hindus, worship 1,000, 1,000,000 gods, stone gods, and as a result, they're pagans, they're infidels. They're to be converted or to be killed even, because the greatest Holocaust in the world is not that of the Jews, it's of the Hindus. It's been calculated that at least 100 million Hindus died since the first Muslim invasion in the 7th century. 100 million Hindus, the greatest Holocaust in the world, and yet there is no Hindu Holocaust museum, neither in India nor in the West, except the one I'm building in Pune. The museum I'm building in Pune, there is an exhibition on the Holocaust of Hindus, from the Hindu Kush, where 100,000 Hindus at least died on the Hindu Kush, being taken as slaves. Intense cold, most of them died, so it's called the Hindu Kush, the killing of Hindus. Till Mumbai, till today, Hindus are targeted and killed. Christians too, they think that Hindus are infidels. They need to be converted. They adore gods. It's something which is very wrong, and they need to be converted to the true God. And even if there is no conversion, this polytheist image is something that endures in the West. Businessmen, the media, Indologists, they all have this image of Hindus, being people in the wrong, people who are worshipping million gods when there's only one God. They don't understand that in the philosophies of Hindus, because they don't read, if you read a little bit, you read your great saints, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Sri Ramakrishna, the Shankaracharya, you understand very quickly that actually Hindus are the most monotheist in the world. They believe in one divine that incarnates in the many. It is actually the most monotheistic religion in the world. But people don't know that. So the challenge of Hindus is to show that Hindu philosophy, even Buddhist philosophy, that there's that unity. You know, Hindus believe in one God, one divinity, but nobody understands that. There's an equation which is well known in Hindu philosophy that one God is in the world, but God, the world is also in God, and also the world is God. And Hindus are able to say God and the world are distinct. God is distinct from the world, but the world is distinct from God. This variety in Vedantic philosophy is extraordinary. It is the ultimate philosophy. So it's important that Hindus start communicating to the world, because there is a kind of shell mentality in Hindus, that they think their religion is eternal and they need not. Hindus have never tried to convert anybody, but they need to explain the monotheistic aspect of Hinduism, and also its belief in the diversity, that a Hindu is able to have an image of Krishna, an image of Christ in his room, an image of even Mohammed or Kennedy, because they believe that they all incarnations of God. So it is very important, that Hindus, especially those in the West, are able to counter in a knowledgeable manner, verbally or in writing, like writing letters to editors, speaking on television, this wrong polytheist image which has harmed Hinduism and still harms it. I believe that in my country, France, there is a resistance because of that. Once I went to Israel, Israel and India share a lot in common. If only the fact that they both face intense Islamic onslaught. But in Israel too, they had this. I spoke to some of their leaders, Shimon Peres, and they have this image of Hindus being pagans. So Hindus need to counter that, and it can be done because in your philosophy, that unique aspect of God is there. It is explained so clearly by so many of your philosophers and saints. So please do that. The second challenge is to dispel the image of poverty which is attached to India. Now, this is one of the greatest cliches. True, there is poverty in India. But once upon a time, India, even during the Mughal times, India was considered a country of honey and milk. There were no beggars in India. Buddha made his monks beg as an act of humility because there was no beggars at that time. And even, much later, the Portuguese and the Chinese traveler of the 15th century, 14th century, speak about this extraordinary wealth of India. So again, you have to explain that the British broke the backbone of India, because the British are supposed to have brought prosperity, and democracy, so many things, education to India. But actually, did you know that between 1825, 1850, there were huge famines, there were 50 million people died of famine in India between 1875 and 1900. So according to, British archives, 25 million Indians died in 100 years of famine, of hunger. 25 million Indians died of famine under the British rule. It is a fact which is not very well known, yet nobody can deny that fact. So why did it happen? Because once upon a time, India was a land of, India, the land of farmers, and they had a wonderful system. They had a wonderful system. They had a barter system, they used what they needed for their own. They exchanged the rest for whatever they needed. So the British broke that. There are many books written on that subject too, and you should read them. The British needed, for the industrial revolution, they needed cotton and tobacco and corn. So they just imposed that, and they taxed the farmers, they impoverished India. You know, the poverty that you see today in India is a result of British colonization. This also has to be explained. And also, you should understand that true, there is still poverty in India. As a journalist, I have traveled in places in UP or Bihar where there is real poverty. But things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot in India. People, who had before, cycle was a sign of wealth in villages. Then it was a scooter or a moped. Then today people have cars. There is a lower middle class in India, which is very important, which buy fridges and scooters and cars and taxis. This is not known. Poverty is commercially exploited also. You have books like The City of Joy, which whatever it's, well-meaning, goal, give the impression that entire India is a slum. People in the West believe that India is the poorest country in the world, that it's only about poverty, and they're surprised when they come here. And then you have films like Slumdog Millionaire. What a shameful film, I mean, me as a Westerner, as a lover of India, when I see that film, it makes my blood boil, make my blood boil, because it just exploits that poverty, because Westerners have this superiority complex. Let's face it, Westerners have a superiority, whether it is Sonia Gandhi or Mother Teresa, they all have it, that we, Westerners, know better, live better, understand better, think better, and we need to bring that to India. I'm the opposite. I came to India and I thought India knew better than me, and I learned at the feet of India. Whatever India's fault, because of course there are big faults in this country, big problems, huge problems. But still, I feel that I learned from India, that India gave me. But most Westerners have this superiority complex, and I see it in politicians also. I see it in French politicians. They come to India and they think they know it all. India is such a complex country, such a huge country, that for a Westerner to begin to have an inkling, it takes many, many years, 10, 20, 30 years. But you have these politicians who come to India and they think in 3 days they know it all. You have diplomats who stay 5 years, in Delhi, which is like a big bubble where which doesn't belong to India. Delhi could be anywhere in the world. There's very little Indianness in Delhi. So they come to Delhi, or journalists, correspondents, they come to Delhi. After 5 years, they go back and they have the same prejudices. So there is a commercial exploitation of poverty that you should counter, because India is a wealthy country. It's a wealthy country. Mr. Modi's demonetization was a brilliant move, because there is so much black money in India. I remember that some of my journalist friends, foreign correspondents, how much they pay for a flat in, Johor Bagh or Delhi in Sujan Singh Park, lakhs and lakhs of rupees, half of it in black. I know that, people who buy flats, they pay half in black. I've seen people with suitcases full of money. We know how the Congress, tried to bribe BJP MPs. So there is so much black money in India. And even now, after demonetization, that tendency to cheat, is so much ingrained in people. So that's also a reason for poverty in India, because if this black money would become white, it would spread more. It spread more. All these rich people who hold so much black money, it's wrong. So you need to counter that image of poverty, especially if you're an Indian abroad. You speak about India. You say that India's PIB has overcome China. That India is on the way to become an economical superpower. True, there's still poverty, but the small shopkeepers, Indians are the best savers in the world. The shopkeeper to the rich people, they save money for the daughter's marriage, for their retirement, in gold, in land. So much land in India, and land is so expensive because it is prized in India. Land is, wealth. So you need to counter that image of poverty and do it intelligently, writing to editors again, appearing on TV, on social groups. Just do that, it's important. Now, the third challenge of Hindus is the caste system. Now, the caste system is an obsession in the West.